15 Facts About Seychelles. Number 15. The first country in the world to turn debt into a blue ocean. When hit by a financial crisis, most countries choose the usual path, selling oil mining minerals or cutting down forests to repay debt. But in the vast Indian Ocean, there's a tiny nation that dared to go against every economic rule Seychelles. Instead of selling its natural resources, this country turned its ocean into currency. It sounds crazy, but it's a true story that amazed the entire world. In 2018, Seychelles carried a debt of over $400 million, a massive figure for a country with just a little over 100,000 people. On average, each citizen owed about $4,000, nearly equal to their annual income. In that situation, instead of borrowing more, Seychelles chose a bold new path, turning debt into nature. Under this historic agreement, $6 million of debt was canceled in exchange for Seychelles' commitment to protect over 154,000 square miles of ocean, about 30% of its national waters. These aren't just empty seas. They contain ancient coral reefs, thriving mangrove forests, and one-of-a-kind marine ecosystems. Seychelles didn't use nature as collateral to sell it off. They used nature itself to save nature. The success of this deal opened a new chapter. Seychelles became the first country in the world to protect more than 50% of its marine territory, while keeping 80% of its land covered by tropical forests, home to over 1,000 plant species found nowhere else on Earth. Number 14. Seychelles has no winter. No winter, that's the gift Seychelles offers to anyone who loves sunshine, the ocean and freedom. No snow. No heavy coats, only warm sunlight, turquoise waters, and endless afternoons on powder-white beaches. Yes, this is Seychelles. The climate here stays between 79 and 86 all year round. Cool enough for a beach walk, warm enough for a swim, a true tropical paradise. Instead of 4 seasons like most countries, Seychelles divides its year by the winds. From May to October, strong southeast trade winds bring dry weather, perfect for hiking morn. Seychellois windsurfing or diving among the coral reefs of Praslin and La Digue. Locals call it the fish season because the sea is crystal clear and full of marine life. From November to April, the northwest winds bring light rains, making the air cooler and the forests greener than ever. It's the best time to explore waterfalls, trek through rainforests, or enjoy a seaside spa day with the sound of waves nearby. The rain comes and goes quickly, leaving behind bright skies and the gentle scent of the ocean. Number 13. Meeting the queens of the Indian Ocean. They say paradise doesn't need kings, only queens. And in Seychelles, that couldn't be truer. Across this chain of 115 islands scattered across the Indian Ocean, women quietly run everything. They make up 54% of the population. Yet the country has one of the lowest marriage rates in Africa. Most men in Seychelles work far from home at sea, as fishermen or sailors or abroad on construction projects, leaving women as the firm anchors of family life. In schools and hotels, women are the managers, teachers, and leaders. At home, mothers and grandmothers decide everything from what's for dinner to where the children will study. But what truly fascinates outsiders isn't their power, it's their attitude toward love. In Seychelles, marriage is optional, not a measure of success. Over 70% of children are born outside formal marriage, yet families remain warm, loyal, and deeply connected. Seychellois women are fiercely independent. They flirt with confidence, but they don't chase. They choose. Locals say, a Seychellois woman doesn't need a man to feel complete, but she'll keep one if he makes her happy. So if you ever visit these islands, don't expect to meet princesses, you'll meet queens. What do you think of these women? Would you dare to try dating one of them? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Number 12. The people of Seychelles travel the least in the world. Seychelles, known as Paradise on Earth, holds a paradox that surprises the world. Its people almost never travel. while millions of tourists from New York, Paris, or Tokyo fly more than 9,000 miles just to set foot in Seychelles, over 80% of Seychellois have never left their country. With a population of around 100,000, that means more than 80,000 people have spent their entire lives knowing only the blue ocean right outside their homes. Many assume they don't travel because they're poor, but that's not entirely true. A round-trip ticket off the island costs about $1 to $200, roughly 2 months' average salary, clearly not an easy expense. But the deeper reason lies in how they define happiness. As one local said in an interview with Seychelles Nation, "We don't dream of Paris or London, we're already living in the dream that others are chasing." The Seychellois even have a saying, "The world we already dreamed of." For them, nothing compares to the sunrise at Ant's Source d'Argent, or the sound of waves crashing against cliffs as the sun sets. A fisherman once laughed and said, "Why leave paradise to visit a copy of it?" Perhaps that's why the people of Seychelles are among the rare few who spend their whole lives on a never-ending vacation in the very place the rest of the world dreams of visiting. And if you were born in Seychelles, would you really want to go anywhere else? Tell us in the comments below. Number 11. The island that banned cars and embraces ox carts. Imagine a place where time moves slower, the air smells of salt and flowers, and the loudest sound you'll hear is the rustling of palm leaves in the breeze. Welcome to La Digue, an island just 4 square miles wide and perhaps the last place on Earth brave enough to say no to cars. Here, bicycles rule the roads and ox carts still carry people and coconuts along sandy paths. Locals known as Diguois live simple lives intentionally. "My brother taught me to ride a bike when I was 6, said Florie Marie, a local woman smiling. He held the bike, then let go. On this island of just 3,000 people, cycling isn't just transportation. It's a tradition, a rite of passage. Unlike the busier neighboring islands of Mahé and Praslin, La Digue has resisted the invasion of engines. Only public service vehicles are allowed, and even that rule is being questioned as tourism grows. Officials worry that adding more cars could destroy the sacred tranquility that defines La Digue. Conservationists warn that expansion could endanger the island's rarest treasure, the Seychelles paradise flycatcher, a bird so unique it exists nowhere else on Earth. To protect it, La Digue has banned the construction of new hotels until at least 2023 and is even considering bringing back ox carts as a proud symbol of eco-heritage. Number 10. The island with a pirate treasure worth millions. Do you think pirate treasure is just a bedtime story? Think again. In Seychelles, a treasure worth millions of dollars is believed to be buried somewhere underground, and to this day, no one has ever found it. The incredible part, you could be the first. The story dates back to the 18th century, when Olivier Levasseur, the most infamous pirate in the Indian Ocean, stole a massive fortune from a Portuguese ship called Nossa Senhora do Cabo. Before being hanged, he was said to have thrown a coded map into the crowd, a cryptic guide to where his treasure was hidden, later known as the Secret of La Bouse. Since then, hundreds of explorers have flocked to Mahé, Seychelles' largest island, believing that decoding this mystery could make them overnight millionaires. In 1949, Reginald Cruz Wilkins, a Seychellois explorer, devoted his entire life to digging in the Belle Ombre area, convinced that Levasseur's gold jewels and religious artifacts were buried there. But after more than half a century, the treasure remains missing. Now Wilkins' son has teamed up with the Seychelles Tourism Board to turn the legend into a real-life treasure hunt for visitors. You can hold the map, follow the clues, and relive the spirit of those legendary pirates yourself. So if the chance came to you, would you be brave enough to become the first person to find La Bouse's lost treasure? Number 9. The most seductive fruit on the planet. There's a fruit in Seychelles that makes the entire world blush, the coco de mer, also known as the most sensual coconut on Earth. And that's not just a figure of speech. Its shape looks exactly like a woman's hips and lower abdomen. Each nut can weigh up to 66 pounds, making it the largest seed in the natural world. Coco de mer grows only on two small islands, Praslin and Curios, and nowhere else on the planet. When early sailors first discovered it, floating in the Indian Ocean, they were so astonished that they believed it had drifted from the lost Garden of Eden. Legend says that if you ever see a coco de mer fall in the middle of the night, it's a sign that love is about to bloom or that passion is awakening. Because of its unmistakably provocative shape, the coco de mer was once banned from export. The government of Seychelles considers it a national treasure strictly protected. Every nut has its own serial number and government-issued certificate. Anyone caught taking one off the island without permission can face a $5,000 fine or even jail time, all for a single coconut. Number 8. A nation that greets by scent. They don't shake hands. They don't kiss cheeks. In Seychelles, people greet each other by scent. Yes, when friends meet, they lean forward not to hug, but to gently inhale near each other's shoulder or collar. The gesture is subtle, delicate, almost poetic. To outsiders, it might seem strange or even intimate, but to Seychellois, it's one of the most natural ways to say I've missed you. Locals believe that every person carries a unique scent, a mix of sea breeze, sunlight, sweat, and coconut oil. They say your scent changes with your mood, stronger when you're angry, softer when you're happy, and warmer when you're in love. Words can lie, but scent cannot. That's why elders often teach children, don't just look at people, smell the truth in them. Number 7. The safest prison in Africa. Amid the lush green hills of Mahé Island, where tourists come to sunbathe, dive, and take wedding photos, lies a place that couldn't be more different. Montagne Posée Prison, known as the safest prison in Africa. Hidden nearly 1,600 feet above sea level, the prison sits deep within dense jungle and steep cliffs where every path leads either to a deadly drop or into snake-filled rainforest. Built in the early 2000s on the southern slopes of Mahé, a place locals jokingly call where even paradise doesn't bother to visit, Montagne Posée has to this day never had a single successful escape. Its location alone makes it a model of natural security that many African nations study. Instead of relying on electric fences or guard dogs, Montagne Posée uses nature itself to keep inmates in. Winds here are so strong that even small planes struggle to land, and tropical rains can instantly turn dirt paths into raging streams. Guards often joke, if someone manages to get past the gates, nature will bring them back. Most prisoners here are serving time for nonviolent crimes, but they are treated with dignity. They grow vegetables, attend rehabilitation classes, and enjoy a stunning view of the turquoise sea, a bittersweet reminder that freedom in Seychelles is never too far away. Number 6. Be careful with what you pick up in Seychelles. Be cautious about anything you pick up in this paradise, because in Seychelles, even a handful of sand or a seashell could cost you over $1,000 in fines. Those seemingly lifeless shells are actually the homes of hermit crabs, tiny creatures that rely on them for protection after every crashing wave. Taking one shell is, in a sense, stealing their home. That's why collecting shells, corals, or any natural object from Seychelles marine parks and nature reserves isn't just frowned upon, it's considered illegal. The law is so strict that even a few grains of sand in your suitcase can lead to a $1,000 fine. It may sound unreasonable, but each grain of sand contains millions of microorganisms that help protect coral reefs, the lungs of the ocean. When you remove them, you're breaking a delicate link in an already fragile ecosystem. The government of Seychelles also bans taking any plants, corals, or shells out of the country without an official export permit. Number 5. A country bought and sold without a single war. The history of Seychelles is one of the strangest stories in the world. A small nation that changed hands 4 times in less than a century without a single war being fought. In 1756, the French arrived on the islands, naming them Seychelles after Finance Minister Jean Moreau de Seychelles, and established them as a strategic stop in the Indian Ocean. But by 1794, as Europe was thrown into turmoil by the French Revolution, the British appeared on Mahé Island. There were no gunshots, no casualties, just a polite request to surrender, and the French agreed. After Napoleon's defeat, France briefly regained control, but Britain quickly returned, signed a treaty, and took full possession of the islands. From that point until 1976, Seychelles remained a British colony until it finally gained independence. Ironically, while many African nations shed blood for their freedom, Seychelles simply changed ownership, almost like a real estate transaction. Locals still joke, "We weren't invaded, we were bought and sold." Yet between two of the world's greatest empires, Seychelles managed to preserve its language identity and spirit of freedom, proof of the quiet resilience of this small island nation in the middle of the vast ocean. Number 4. The country with no army. Seychelles is one of the rare countries in the world without an army that's right. No tanks, no border troops, not a single active soldier. In an age where nearly every nation talks about national security and military power, Seychelles has chosen the opposite path. They believe that true security exists only when nature is healthy. Since gaining independence in 1976, the islands have never built a formal army. They only have a small coast guard with a few patrol vessels protecting more than 500,000 square miles of exclusive economic waters and a group of environmental rangers who safeguard coral islands and pristine rainforests. There are no military bases, no barracks, and no massive defense budget. Instead, that money is invested in education, conservation, and ecotourism, what they proudly call their Green Shield, protecting the nation's future. Number 3. Seychellois people sing everywhere, all the time. People here believe that if silence lasts too long, the soul loses its way. That's why they sing everywhere. On fishing boats, in the marketplace, in the kitchen, or under the blazing noon sun. Their voices rise with the rhythm of the waves blending with the wind and the sound of drums, as if nature itself were humming along. The Seychellois have a traditional music called mucha, a sound born during the time of slavery when Africans were brought to the distant islands and music became their only link to memory and freedom. They played drums made from shark skin, danced barefoot around fires, and sang songs without sheet music, only emotion. Mucha isn't showy or elaborate. It's deep, raw, and soulful, a conversation between people and between humanity and the sea. Today, even with smartphones and modern tourism reaching every island, that music hasn't faded. It still flows through homes, markets, and seaside paths. In 2021, UNESCO officially recognized mucha as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Number 2. The country with an underwater national park. In the heart of the deep blue Indian Ocean, where sunlight pierces the surface and scatters like crystal, Seychelles is home to one of the world's rarest wonders, the Santan Marine National Park. Established in 1973, it was the first marine park in the entire Indian Ocean created with a single purpose: to protect coral reefs that are more than 1,000 years old, along with hundreds of unique marine species found nowhere else on Earth. Located just 3 miles from the capital city, Victoria, the park includes 6 small islands surrounded by reefs so colorful they look unreal. When you dive beneath the waves, a hidden world opens: coral gardens spreading like flowers, turquoise fish shimmering in schools, and giant sea turtles gliding slowly by like the ancient spirits of the ocean. What makes Santan special is its philosophy. There are no fences, no fixed paths, only an invisible boundary between humans and nature. The government enforces strict rules: no touching the coral, no collecting anything from the sea, and every tourist activity follows the principle, see, don't touch. Number 1. Anyone can enter Seychelles. No visa required. Seychelles is one of the few countries on Earth that welcomes everyone. No nationality restrictions, no visa, no interview, no paperwork. Whether you're from the United States, Iran, North Korea, or anywhere else, all you need is a valid passport and a return ticket. That's it. You can step into this hidden paradise in the Indian Ocean without ever visiting an embassy. In a world where borders grow tighter every day, Seychelles' decision seems almost insane. But for them, it's more than tourism policy, it's a way of life. The people here hold a simple belief: if someone travels halfway across the world to reach us, they deserve to be welcomed as family. And it's not just talk. Since implementing this visa-free policy, Seychelles has welcomed hundreds of thousands of tourists every year, even though the population is barely over 100,000. In other words, each Seychellois hosts more than 10 international visitors a year, and they still manage to do it with warmth, calm, and grace. This spirit of openness is deeply rooted in their history. For over 3 centuries, Seychelles has been a meeting point of Africans, Indians, Arabs, and Europeans, blending languages, food, and faiths into one unique Creole culture. The Seychellois don't believe in separation, because their nation was born from connection. As one local guide once said, "We have no walls, only the ocean around us." Maybe that's why Seychelles remains one of the few places on Earth where you feel truly welcomed without having to prove anything. In a world filled with borders and suspicion, this island nation still believes that hospitality is the only passport people really need. So what about you? If there were a place that didn't require a visa, only an open heart would you go there today? And that brings us to the end of our journey through 15 fascinating facts about Seychelles in today's travel documentary. Which one amazed you the most? Do you have your own stories connected to Seychelles or even Panama? Share them in the comments, we'd love to hear. Also tell us which country you'd like us to explore next. Who knows, your idea might inspire our next documentary. See you in the next episode.